See, this is a good point, right? Because you're, in this hypothetical example, asking somebody who's not on board with you yet, who may feel that to attack contraception is insane, out of date, wrong, okay, but you're calling them to ask the question, to be open to where you're going. So let me ask you something that maybe you are opposed to. Were we wrong to ever encourage women to go into the workforce, mothers to go into the workforce? What has that done? What has the results of that been?
Yes. I'm willing to talk about that.
Because I'm asking somebody who has a PhD and obviously works for an institution, and I'm not saying that you shouldn't, by the way. That's not my position, but I want to ask the question.
I think in this book I talk a little bit about feminism because I avoid the word feminism, so let's continue to avoid the word feminism and go right back to the question: were we wrong to encourage women to go into the workforce, to encourage
mothers in particular
to encourage? And I think I'm going to say yes, we were wrong. That is wrong to encourage mothers to go into the workplace as if that is normal, as if that is to be desired, as if that is superior to the raising of children. I think that was a wrong turn. I definitely think that was a wrong turn. And it's a wrong turn that many women have suffered greatly from. Greatly. Okay, Matt?
How so? What's your experience been in talking to these women?
Oh, honey. Oh. Well, okay, so I was born in 1953. So that means I came of age when all of this stuff was coming of age, right? And I was very drawn to the idea that I should get a job, that I should have an education. I was good in school, and I had intellectually a lot of intellectual interests, and so I was very drawn to careerism, what I would call careerism. But you don't see the downside of it until it's too late to do anything about it. And so in my case, the particular downside of it was I postponed childbearing for so long that we ended up with a long period of infertility. Okay. And that, for me, that was the crisis. That's when I came back to the faith.
Wow.
See, I was a cradle Catholic, memorized the Baltimore Catechism in 4th grade, Thomism for children, as I'm sure you know.
Sure,
That's what that is.
Essentially.
So I abandoned the faith, but it was infertility that brought me back to the faith, because this is where I could see that I'm not in control of everything. I can't control the outcome, get everything I want by working harder, being smart, so on and so forth. But by the time you are in your mid-30s and struggling to conceive, you look back and you go, criminy, I can't fix this problem. I can't go back to my 20s. I can't go back and undo the sexual misadventures that I had that led me here, that led me to postpone marriage. And all of those things, the priority that I put on my education, the priority that I put on my career, the way I treated my husband because of that,
How did you treat your husband?
Let me finish this one thought and I'll go back to it. All of that, I couldn't go back and get that lost time. And whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not, there is a ticking fertility clock, that's a reality. And so millions of women have had the exact same experience, and every last one of them thinks they're the only one. I mean, it's horrible. When you really think about that, it's horrible. In the meantime, Phyllis Schlafly was trying to tell us...
Who's this?
Phyllis Schlafly... Oh, okay. She's not important in a way.
Okay, that's all right.
The previous generation was trying to tell us that it's possible to raise your children and then go to college, and then go to law school. That's possible. That option has been there for a long time, but nobody ever talked about that as a correct path for women, which tells you that there was something corrupting about that form of feminism and that messaging and all that. That was about something else other than women's choice and empowerment. See, that's you then take the next step to think, I was sold a bill of goods there. But anyway, the point is that once you figure out that it was that priority that you placed was incorrect, it's too late to do anything about it. And the other thing that has happened as a result of that whole let's push women into the labor force is that they don't look for spouses at a time when they should be looking for spouses. it affects how we interact, male and female, the expectations we have of each other. And now I'll answer your question. What about my husband? How was I treating my husband? Okay. So I had it in mind, as the feminists have told us, that we must have equality in the home, in the work in the home, because that's what's really holding women back. What's holding women back is their husbands aren't doing enough of the chores. Okay, so you fool around with that for very long, you're going to create a lot of dissension and ill at ease inside the home, right? And and I was
you
doing
begin
that.
to look at your husband like the enemy who refuses to play his part in the household duties.
Exactly. You're competing with your husband instead of loving your husband, instead of cooperating, instead of collaborating. You're competing with each other. And I can honestly say to you, Matt, that infertility was the first time in our marriage where it was really, really obvious that men and women are different. And it's like, that is really stinking weird that it took that long to figure that out. But the truth is, this wanting to conceive and being unable to conceive cuts to the heart of your maleness and your femaleness, and we each reacted to it in different ways. It meant something different to him than it meant to me. And in order for us to live together, in order for us to pass through that experience together, I had to be willing to accept that this was not parallel, perfect reciprocity going on here. That he had his own path, that he had his own needs. And same with me. I expected him to understand me perfectly. Well, maybe I should give him a break and try to understand him, on his terms instead of on my terms all the time, So I didn't expect this, Matt, but in my spirit of being forthright, I think the question you asked was a good question because it was focused on one thing. And I have to say, I think it was a mistake. I think it's still a mistake to tell women that their highest priority is to go to work. And
maybe not even just their highest priority. Maybe that's not strong enough, but maybe it's just to tell them to go to work. Like my wife, you'd love her. She's powerful. She's choleric. She takes command of a room if no one's going to do it. She's beautiful. She's sassy. She's hilarious. She's never led me astray.
And you're in love with her.
I love her.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd never say that to her face. But I'm just joking.
Oh, shut up.
I love her. I not only do I love her, but she's my favorite person. Like I like her. I find her delightful. Okay. I have no doubt that if she was working, we'd be making way more money, because she's just better at me and this stuff. But if she said to me, honey, what do you think? Should I take a job? I'd tell her, no, I don't want you doing that. And she would listen to that because she knows I love her. And,
right.
And I'm so glad she's at home.
And you have children?
4.
And they're still at home?
The eldest is 14. They're homeschooled.
They are at home.
But
they're
not
definitely
always.
at home.
Not always. We did try out different things along the path, but this is what works best for us.
Yeah.
I guess my question for you then is, what is your advice? We have many young men and women watch this show, right?
Yeah.
They're looking to date. They want to get married. Yeah. They're thinking about, what do I do once I get married? My children now will say things like, when I go to university, and I say, why? Why would you go to university? Like, I'm open to it. But why is that? And I think maybe something similar should be said to mothers. I mean, no doubt the feminine genius pervades the workspace. I'm so grateful for your work and I'm glad for the work that you do. And so certainly I believe women can be called to these certain professions.
Right.
But on the whole, why not say, why would you think about working?
Right.
Why not move to a Rust Belt dingy town like Steubenville where you don't actually have to be making $200,000 a year to live and just let your husband work. I mean, I don't want to put words into your mouth, and I'm happy for you to disagree with me on this, but what would your advice be to young men and women who are maybe engaged right now?
Here's the problem, Matt. This is where the sexual revolution has several interlocking parts, and this is where the divorce ideology comes in and rears its ugly head and plays a very important part in people's decision-making. And that is that you cannot be sure that your spouse will stay with you for a lifetime. And so there are a lot of women, I know this for a fact, who get more education than maybe they really want, and certainly who stay at work longer than they really want after their kids come because they don't really trust their husbands to be there for them. And so that's another thing where you change an incentive over here, the incentive to stay married, right? You can change that. And it has all these ripple effects all over the place, right? See, it used to be when I was growing up, I knew people who, the couple would get married and the wife would work for a while hubby was going through medical school, putting hubby through. She got her PhD, putting hubby through. And then he would get, and maybe they'd have a child or two, but she'd be working. And then when he was a doctor and established and so on, she'd stay home with the kids and everything. Well, you can't do that anymore. You can't trust that he will not run off with the secretary, after you've made the investment, and then he ditches you. You can't do that anymore. And this is how people are thinking. And they're not wrong to be thinking like that. And the more secular they are, the greater the burden that is. I mean, my daughter is sounds like your wife. My daughter is a ball of fire, and she has her doctorate, and so she encounters a lot of people, and she listens to her friends, and she listens to them talk, and she hears their fears, about. I want to get married, but we're gonna get married, but we're gonna keep separate bank accounts, all this type of stuff, and I did that, and I thought like that. So these moving parts are all connected, So what I would say to young people, I first of all, I want to say to young people, I'm aware that it's really difficult to find a suitable spouse. I hear this from men and women alike. Where are all the good people, So that's discouraging, and I recognize that that's discouraging for people, but so you got to solve that problem, first of all. But then once you do get married, I think the key thing is do not rack up too much student debt, number one, and do not take too big of a mortgage, right? Because as soon as you do that, you have limited your options, right? So those are the most practical things, that I could say.
Yeah, that's really helpful.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please be sure to like and subscribe and leave a comment below letting us know what you thought about the video.